brought to us by Air Diffusion Agencies and Samsung. I have the great Weed with me, Wayne Weidemann, absolute superstar for the Crows and quite a few other clubs, and we'll touch on those. Weed, how are you?
Good, Phil.
Mate,
Very good.
Revolution Roofing, that's the big company that we work for now?
We do. Been there 10 years, our 10 year anniversary this year. So the breakaway happened 10 years ago, and where's that time gone?
Gone quick, mate.
Pretty quick.
Let's get back to the start, mate. Fish Creek, population about 827, I would think. I might be touching up the number a little bit.
I reckon we're about 600 over.
600 over at the moment, mate. Hey, tell us about Fish Creek.
Yeah, not much there. The sign when you drive in will say there's 201 people there, and that's probably just in the town, but it's a huge community. There's one street in, it's crossroads, a pub on one corner, takeaway shop and a garage on the other corner, and that's pretty much it. So very much a farming district.
So how does a player get from Fish Creek to 1993 to be in the AFL representing the Crows? Mate, I'm not imagining it's an easy road.
No, it's not an easy road, and back then it was a little bit different too, because Fish Creek was in Footscray zone. It was zone back then.
Yep.
And then it became also St Kilda's zone. So they had obviously scouts that would go and see the country footy, or someone would say, "Oh, go and look at this bloke at Fish Creek," blah blah blah. And then we went down and played a couple of games. So I actually played 2 games for St Kilda reserves in '87. And I played there on permit. So gave Fish Creek away for the day and went and played for St Kilda Reserves. And that's where it all sort of started. Yeah.
So St Kilda, Geelong, Collingwood, you spent a little bit of time with those?
I did pre-season at St Kilda, Richmond and Collingwood.
Yep.
And Geelong were looking at perhaps drafting me at the end of 1990.
Okay, so they're 4 big, powerful clubs at the time.
Wish I was at Richmond now.
Yeah, wouldn't mind being at Richmond now.
Right.
Damien Hardwick there, mate. So then how do you get from there over to the Adelaide Crows? How's that work out?
Chased it. Yeah.
You chased it?
I chased it. Yep. VFL as it was then.
Yep.
When I was a kid many moons ago.
Yep.
That's all we kids wanted to do, was play
VFL footy.
VFL footy. We want to play A grade for Fish Creek, and then if we got a chance, play for a VFL club. And chased it. I mean, Victorian club. That's all you grew up watching, listening to. What's just revolved around that. So, with a couple of pre-seasons at Richmond and Collingwood, a couple of games with St Kilda, thought I was good enough, won a medal down there, pretty young, and I thought, well, I've got to chase it here. Even though I had some disappointment with 3 clubs, I didn't eventually get on a list or get invited back, but I wanted to chase it. I wanted to see if I could make it, and I wasn't going to do it in Fish Creek. So I went to Canberra. Thought about the same time you were there, I reckon, 88 and 89, to play for Eastlake Footy Club there, hoping that the Swans would pick me up, local, an hour away, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't until I represented ACT in a carnival down in Tassie that Andy Bennett, who was coaching West Torrens at the time, Tassie boy, he was down there and watched me play.
Yeah.
So he came up to me after the carnival and said, "Look, I'm Andy Bennett." Conversation followed. He said, "How about you like to come across to West Torrens and have a go?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." So went back to Canberra, left there in March, and come across in 1990 here to West Torrens, and had the year there before the Crows formed. And then, lucky enough, with 120 people on the invite list, I was one of those. So that was good, and that's where it all started.
I mean, we talk a lot, I'm hearing the theme of persistence. That's what's buzzing in my head, that word persistence, and you could put a lot of other buzzwords to it.
Yeah.
But, if you're sitting here and you were passing a message on to young kids today, they tend to fall off pretty quickly.
Yeah, look, we're only talking about the national draft that's going on at the moment, and the combine and things like that. These kids are 18.
Yeah.
At 18, I was playing senior footy for Fish Creek.
Yes.
It wasn't until 6 years later I eventually got a game for the Crows. But I didn't want to give up on that. That's what I wanted to do. So I played my first game for the Crows versus Hawthorn at Waverley when I was 24. So it took me a while to get there, and I could have retired after that game. I thought, I've done it. That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
It took me a long time. So, but just reversing up a bit to Canberra, I thought, well, I wasn't going to make it. Looks like my time had passed. I'll go across and play in the so-called second best competition there is. That was the SNFL. And I didn't come across here on the presumption that the Crows were going to perform either.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much come across here to play for West Torrens, playing a pretty good competition of footy, and see how you go from there.
So, mate, then you get picked up, and all of a sudden there's a cult following.
Yeah.
You know, every time you kind of got near a contest, the
Yeah.
crowd would ignite to weed. And
Yeah.
most players don't get that luxury.
No.
You know, you normally get the booing. I mean, we don't want
Yeah.
to touch on the Adam Goods stuff.
Yeah.
But for you,
Yeah.
it's the other way. It's the energy of...
Yeah, could do no wrong, really.
Yeah. How did you find that?
It was good. Bruce Lindsay's not happy with me because he reckons I pinched it from him.
From him? Yeah.
Pinched him and got on
Got
to me.
on.
I said, well, I've got more hair than you, Bruce.
That would make-
that's,
yeah, makes sense.
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
So, and
Would have
it
been the
started-
mullet then too, would it? Would have been the mullet? Yep.
Full-on mullet, worst
Yep.
haircut in the AFL, but it made something. It was a presence. A lot of people didn't like it, and I just kept it the way it was. Yeah. So it became a bit of a thing, I guess. But, you know, and I can't remember where it started, how it started. It just was there.
Yeah.
You know, and run with it. As I said, I couldn't do much wrong. Even when I did stuff it up, they were
love the
still
weed.
yelling out.
So you're going to play one game and then you're thinking, I'm ready to retire. You're still there 6 years later.
Yeah.
So it's a terrific journey to stick for 6 years. I mean, most
Yeah.
of the players now, they're saying, if you can get 3 years in the AFL or 4, you've had a pretty good career. You went for 6.
Went for 6,
Would have
yeah.
played with some great players across the
Yeah.
journey, mate.
Oh.
Who were some of the good ones?
Absolutely. Well, you know, particularly in the early days, you had, you know, Andrew Jarman and Chris McDermott and
Yep.
your Greg Andersons and the Matty Robbins come in, and then all of a sudden the next generation of kids come through. Your Ben Hart, your Andrew McLeods, your Tyson Edwards, Simon Goodwins. And then you get Jars back from Hawthorn, Darren Jarman. Like, it was just great to just train with him.
Yes.
It was just slick at
Is
training.
he a
let alone
misjudged character? You know how people
Yeah.
say, oh, he's slow, he's lazy. And I try and defend him by saying, no, he had a gift that he could see the play before it came and he'd get to the ball and he was always smooth because he made it look so easy. Did people misjudge him as being lazy because because he was so good?
So good. He
Yeah.
never didn't get caught much.
Yeah,
no,
did
get to
he?
see some highlights, see how often he got caught.
Yeah.
Shows you a little bit, I reckon. But he just made you. I remember kicking one day at him at Footy Park. We're doing a drill and, you know, buggered up the kick a little bit and it landed on his face and he just bent down and picked it up half while he cleaned as a whistle and dished it off, gone, thanks for making me look good, or the kick looked good. So he was all class, and just to watch him play, you know, he just knew what was going to happen, and if he didn't know what was going to happen, he would create it to his favour. Yeah.
Toughest opponent through that journey, mate?
Oh, he had a lot of hard ones and had some cheats of footy. You know, me and Worsfold used to come to head a little bit. Carl Langdon. used to
Big
come to
boys,
head a bit. Yeah. Then you played on blokes like Hudson from Hawthorn that would take you up to the contest. I'd get sucked in because I wanted the footy and he'd just duck around the back and they'd win it and he'd be all on his own and I see the runner coming out to me, stink with him. So guys like that, I mean, you know, against every club, like tagging Craig Bradley as well.
Wow.
Against
there's
Carlton.
an
You
assignment.
you played some, and he had running power. So, I mean, there's a lot of good, you know, I even played on Peter Riccardi, this going back a long time, at Cardinia Park down in Geelong, and trying to keep up with him when a dominant Geelong and he's on a wing and they just go on through him. It was hard to keep up with him. But there was a lot of great players during that era, and you know, watching Johnny Platt playing against Hawthorn, you're watching Johnny Platten play, and then you're watching Jason Dunstall up
Did you ever
front
get caught?
and
Did you ever
Dermott.
get caught watching when you should have been
Yeah, I
playing?
did. Yeah. Things like you think, oh, well, these are the blokes that you actually watched the
Yes.
whole sort of, you know, from 18 when you wanted to make it,
Yeah.
to eventually make it. Those are the blokes you watched on TV and end up playing against them. So definitely in awe and definitely got caught watching.
Do you ever catch yourself in a moment like right now and you go, yeah, gee whiz, I was on the oval with those blokes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, and it's funny. You go back, you know, coaching now, and you're coaching against some younger guys that probably will know that I played AFL, and then you reel off some of the names. You're like, oh, did you play against Gary Ablett? Yeah, I played against him. They go, oh, really? Yeah. So all of a sudden, these names pop up from yesteryear that are legends of the game. You go, well, yeah, I did play.
It's amazing
against
you
him.
get credibility for playing on the same ground, isn't
Yeah,
it? You know?
played on the same ground as
Yeah,
him.
and
Didn't
mate,
get a kick. But
all things
played
come
on
to
the
an
same
end, but
ground.
you had a great passion for footy. Obviously, we can see that in the little bit that we've spoken about already. Then it's coming to an end, the playing side of it. Did you think you'd get into coaching and do as well as you did?
No, I didn't think so. Even though my father coached, you know, me as a kid all through juniors, coached reserves at Fish Creek and played senior footy as well. So I guess maybe you thought you could have because Dad did. Not not a real great philosophy. I think you might have heard Dad enough in the way he did it. Never planned to get into it, but when people ask you, and probably ask me every year for the last 22 years, but I remember when I first left the Crows, I reckon I had about 30 offers on the table. So not as if you're forced into it, you're going, well, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's have a crack at it. So
mate, you had some big clubs. I mean, you premiership with Gazer, then you were at Westies for a while, you're at Foss Camden, there's a couple others along the way. Was any club special to you compared to any others? I mean, you win a premiership, so Gazer obviously fits into the grab, because that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Once you win a premiership, you're there forever.
My time at Foss Camden, 5 years there, was awesome. We lost a grand final with them.
Now you brought that up, not me.
But I had a great time there.
Yep.
You know, longest serving coach that they've had, 5 years. But then you go to Gazer and you win one in your first year.
Yeah.
So you think Gazer was very special because it was they'd come up from Division 3 and Division 2 and Division 1, and we won it the next year. So it was pretty special, and we didn't have a lot of stars, but we just had a good team that was really Gazer orientated, and those memories will last forever. Yeah.
Broadview, Walkerville, they're a couple of big clubs too.
Couple of big clubs, yeah. A couple of big clubs. You know, Walkerville been there the last 3 years. Great club, great people, do it pretty hard there. A lot of blokes don't really recognise Walkerville as a footy club, I guess. You see your Gazers, your Broadview within, you know, a drop punt of those of that club, and they're more sort of your traditional clubs. You know, and just down the road you've got Tree Gully, Ross Trevor, and then Payneham just up the road. So you think, well, how's Walkerville fit in it? Difficult to attract players there, and we get a lot of support from the unis there. A lot of players come from the country down to the unis and end up at Walkerville. So we always got numbers, but we do turn over a lot of players as well.
Well, you've got some kids, mate, and I'm always interested in a parent's take on someone that's been successful, and you have been over your career. The advice you give your kids growing up, if they were into sport, and you were sitting here now and a parent sat here and said, gee, Weed, what advice would you give me on my young fella to play footy, on my daughter to play netball? What would you pass on?
Yeah, that's a hard one, because my young bloke, I don't think, has ever listened to me, but I think he has. But
welcome to parenting.
What would you know, Dad? Did you even play?
Yeah.
But I think it's about, it's interesting not coaching your kid, especially my boy Jake, and then watching him in the Eagles system. So I could control him to a degree and manipulate him to help out and do things when I was coaching him as a junior at Woodville South. And then when he got to the Eagles, I couldn't assist him as much. I just had to see what he had to say. And the only thing I would say to everyone, just listen to everyone, take on all advice, but do exactly what the coach wants you to do. Because that's what he wants you to do. That's what he thinks that your best role is for the team. But the other thing is perseverance, you know. Coaches come and go, but hopefully you'll have a 10, 12-year career. You're not going to have the coach that agrees with you, or you get along with that coach, or he might not even play it, but they don't last forever. So you got to be, you got to have huge perseverance and just keep wanting to play.
Well, it's been an interesting journey, because you talked about from Fish Creek through to the AFL to into coaching, yet you remembered most, and it will be it's probably folklore now with the Crows, weed. And you talked about, and Darren Jarman gets remembered, and Andrew Jarman. But you think about the players over 6 years that you played with, I think it's probably 120, 130 players that you played with. Most of them won't get into folklore. So do you ever have a chance to reflect back and go, yeah, gee whiz, I'm going to be a part of history. For the rest of your life, that will be with the Crows.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a great thing to have rather than some other things people could say. But it's a good thing. It was, you know, I wanted to play AFL, VFL, turn into AFL. Never thought that I would end up at a club that come out of nothing, you know. So even though it would have been great to play at a Collingwood, St Kilda, Richmond, Carlton, whatever, but then to come here, we're a brand new club. So to go through that time was exciting too. You know, we had 120 blokes, we did camps, we did this, narrowed it down to 52, on the list, away we went. So to see all that evolve from nothing to what it is now, 2 premierships later, and think back over our history that you saw, you know, Rashudo Bruin and Brownlow medal, Tyson Edwards 300 games, McLeod 300 games, Darren Jarman, in his 97 grand final against St Kilda, what he did.
Yeah.
You know, played with blokes like Andrew Jarman that was just so skillful with his hands and that sort of thing. And you know, these sort of guys that you played with, you think, yeah, that was a pretty good time because these blokes are superstars. I don't fit in there, but I played with them.
Oh, well, mate, you're going to be part of folklore, so you are. The journey now, mate. Where's the journey going now?
Yeah, not quite too sure where it's going to end up at the minute. I've finished up at Walkerville this year. I've had a couple of phone calls, but I just haven't got the juices flowing for it yet. There is a couple of things that I want to do next year. It would be better if I was able to do them without coaching. I don't know if I want to get to the SANFL level. I don't know whether I want to get back into coaching kids again because I really like coaching kids again. So I'm in a sort of bit of no man's land at the minute. I'm just waiting to see what happens. But I've got a couple of things I want to do, yeah.
All right. Wayne Weidemann, our special guest, absolute superstar of the Crows. Hang time, Air Diffusion, our sponsors. Hope you've enjoyed it. Weed, fantastic, mate.
Thanks a lot, Phil. No worries at all.